Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us for what is sure to be a fascinating exhibition discussion about artwork. We're here to talk about the exhibition, The Expressive Body, which is currently just about to open at the Silk Purse Art Center in West Vancouver. And we have both of the artists with us, Derry Lubell and Jeidn Winkler, and we're going to get to meet them in just a moment and hear all about and see their really interesting artwork. My name is Stephen Snyder. I'm the Gallery and Communications Manager for the West Vancouver Community Arts Council, and we are incredibly thrilled to be able to present this exhibit here at the Silk Purse Art Center in West Vancouver. I think let's just take a moment to recognize that these beautiful lands that the Silk Purse is on are the unceded and traditional territories of the Squamish Nation. And it is a real privilege to be able to be on these beautiful lands that they have stewarded since time immemorial to celebrate all kinds of arts and culture, with and alongside our host nations and neighbors. So the Expressive Body, it actually opens tomorrow on May the 7th and runs until June the 1st. So plenty of time to come on in and see this incredible exhibition. If you have any questions or comments for our two artists as we go throughout this conversation, please drop those in the chat and we'll get to that a little bit later. So the Expressive Body, you can see a little bit of that behind me here in the gallery. Features Derry and Jeidn. And it's an exhibit that uses the human form, the human figure, to tell stories, to explore themes of identity and communication and emotion and all kinds of interesting notions. And we'll get to that a little bit right now as we meet our artists. They're going to tell you a little bit who they are. So please, let's start with Derry. Could you please tell us a bit about you?
Yes. I'll give you a little bit background about my my journey as an artist. And it starts with I've always been fascinated with people. I'm curious about how they think, act, talk, how they interact, what relationships are like. And I've always been curious about creativity. So it's been kind of a dual stream that I've tried to bring together. And sometimes that's actually worked, most of the times not. In terms of the creativity, I've tried everything. I did every craft that has ever been invented and had no skills in any of them. I was involved in the theater for a while, and my best place was out in the audience. And I took a photography course, and I did not like being in the small enclosed dark space with chemicals. This was a number of years ago. So I kind of said, okay, I'm going to focus on the other part of my life. And I went ahead and became basically a psychotherapist, a trauma therapist. And I spent years working with people who were dealing with childhood experiences, present problems in relationships, depression, anxiety. And we used words, and words were very powerful. And I actually liked it. It fit for me. And then I got to be older and said, okay, now what happens? And I said, I want to have the creativity back again as part of my life. In the meantime, I had picked up a point and shoot camera, take pictures of grandchildren, and I carried it around with me all the time, almost pretending it was like an iPhone, and got into it. So I decided to take a course, and it clicked. It worked. The only thing was that I didn't understand that photography nowadays is mostly computer. You sit in front of the computer and you process stuff. I was back in the old days of, if some of you remember the movie Blow Up, where you get to move around and take photos. So as I explored, okay, now I've got a camera. I'm excited what am I going to take pictures of? Well, I ended up, of course, taking pictures of people and found myself drawn to people who use their bodies to communicate, which, of course, is what you pay attention to when you're a therapist. And so I began working with dancers and trainers and athletes. And I found that I liked that style of listening. I'm trying to understand what they're telling me. I'm trying to connect and catch their essence. Um, so I'm using um, imagery instead of words now to try to communicate and to capture. And I find it a very exciting world. It's a world where I get to, in a sense, complete a communication. I get to put it into the movement, the person that's in front of me, into language, the camera, a photograph that people outside of them can understand. So the only thing I'm finding that I don't like is I'm working harder now as a photographer, many more hours than I ever worked in the office. So, and that's my story. So,
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing, Derry. And yes, art making is a lot of work.
yes, yes.
Awesome. Jeidn, could you please introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, so I'm a Czech Canadian artist currently based in Metro Vancouver. My art delves into the complexities of identity and subjectivity informed by my personal experiences living with borderline personality disorder, or BPD. I often navigate intersections of cultural heritage, queer identity, and the impact of technology in shaping modern subjectivities. My practice is deeply rooted in self portraiture, which you'll be able to see in the exhibition, allowing me to historicize fragments of my ever evolving identity while fostering a dialogue around challenging and controversial topics. Through this, I invite the viewers to reflect on their own experiences and engage in a shared exploration of identity and selfhood. And while there's growing recognition of mental health in art, the specific nuances of BPD, characterized by unstable self image, intense emotions, and interpersonal difficulties, remain largely unexplored in art historical and critical discourse. So, my art really focuses on BPD and how that informs my artwork. And through that, I use my artwork to learn more about myself. Existing artists often focus on the representation of mental illness in art rather than how our lived experiences of a specific mental health condition shape an artist's process and output. I aim to bridge this gap by examining how BPD manifests in my own artistic practice, analyzing how it influences my creative choices, thematic concerns, and the very nature of my art making.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, Jeidn. Uh, that was great to know a little bit about all of you and your journey and a bit about what drives you. Communication seems to be a big commonality, as well as just, that the human form that you're using to express it through, and also this idea of exploration and identity and human connection. Another great commonality that we hear and that we will see in all of your artwork. Up next, yeah, we're going to take a quick little tour of the show, give you all a sneak peek of what it looks like when you come in to see it here at the Silk Purse. Pull that up right now. And it's a fantastic fantastic exhibit, and this video is just a really quick sort of snapshot that really just gives you a hint. You really have to come on in person to the gallery to get a real feel for the show. So yeah, just a quick tour around as you come in off the waterfront. Our waterfront entrance, we got two entrances. So from there, we start with Derry's fantastic photography of dancers. as you mentioned, Derry, it's, individuals using their body to communicate. And it's a great mix of color, black and white, settings, urban nature settings. It's pretty interesting contrast in your work that you're playing with. We have a lot of natural light in the gallery, so it makes photos and videos a little tricky. And then we get to move on to Jeidn's work, which, like you said, self-portraiture, you said, will be evident as we go through. Yeah, pretty great, pretty impactful stuff, and something I think we'll probably get into. Very interesting. Different types of media. We just saw photography, acrylic painting. These pieces are in colored pencil. So yeah, a lot of exploration going on here. Yeah, and that's the show. Just a quick tease of it. Please come on down and see it. It's pretty fantastic. What everyone's done. We actually, a quick anecdote, we had our introduction for volunteers today, where we bring all our volunteers in and tell them a bit about the show and hear their comments and things. And it was a really great discussion. Everyone was really impressed with your work and found a lot of meaning. And there was a lot of really great dialogue about each of you individually and how your work comes together to create conversations. So it was really cool. You've made a great impression before the show's even opened. Next up, just a quick reminder, if you do have questions or comments, drop those in the chat. Next up, each of our fantastic artists have chosen one of the pieces on display to talk about a little bit more in depth, as a representation of the body of work that's here. So let's go alphabetically, and we'll pull up your piece, Derry. I'll just bring it up on screen here, and would love to hear about this fantastic work of art.
Okay. I chose this piece because it illustrates so many of the points that we've just talked about. I chose this piece to talk about for that reason. This is a extraordinary dancer, actually, who has for her entire life known that she wants to use her body to connect and to communicate with the world. She was classically trained. She won all kinds of awards and competitions. She danced for years with the Budapest Opera Ballet Company. And then she moved on, did a little bit of film work, but decided to go to Singapore and work with a kind of a Cirque du Soleil show where she did hoops and aerials and ribbons, a water show. And since she has, following COVID, which shut everything down, since she's come back, she has continued to choreograph and has won awards there. She's a master teacher and a master dancer. She's the kind of person that I keep saying to her, years from now, people are going to say to me, "Oh, you knew Danielle when?" You knew her at the beginning, because she's a special star. And what this particular shot, how this happened, is that we met in Stanley Park, and we were she was dancing on tree stumps where they did the clear cutting this past year. And then we were walking from one of the clear cut areas down to the beach, and we came across this incredibly huge stump and kind of just in the middle of the forest path. And it was magnificent and stirred something up in both of us. And Danielle just basically took off her shirt and started to move. And she moved and I photographed. And that's the kind of collaboration that we've had, that she starts to express what she's experiencing, and I try to capture it in such a way that her message and her essence can shine through. And I feel that she does shine through. So it's an experience of listening to how her body talks, trying to, again, put it into an accessible language and getting it to share it with the observer, with the audience, which kind of completes the circle. And that's most of the story of this photograph.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all that great information about your subject as well as your process. Sounds like you really get to know your dancers pretty well, huh?
Well, and her mother's probably listening to this thing, so I better get it right. So, yeah, that's part of the pleasure of, doing portrait work. You get to connect with somebody on a real and a very deep level, even without knowing much about them. And to me, it's part of what pulls me into wanting to take their picture with my camera.
Yeah. No, and that's interesting when you're talking about your collaboration. And I love that you call it a collaboration, how much you're actually working with your subjects. Is that typically how it goes? You just kind of let them sort of feel their feelings and do their thing, or do you ever have sort of ideas and scenarios or scenes you want to set up?
Well, both happen, but I find very much when you are photographing people who are accustomed to moving their body, like getting back to the athletes, the trainers, the dancers, if you tell them that they don't have to stand still, then the magic starts. If you tell them, I might make an observation. Do you realize that your left heel is out of line with your right leg? I would share that kind of stuff with them. But if I try to force them to pose, I lose them. That's not how they think, feel, or experience the world.
Yeah. No, fascinating. And this idea of language and different kinds of language, the language of movement and visual language, as opposed to, what you did in your previous career, which was, I assume much a lot of talking and using words. It's kind of wonderful that your art form and this subject that you're choosing are both two different kinds of language, again, that don't use words.
Yeah, my previous website started off with "words have power." And I would say now, action has power, movement has power.
Yeah.
Being with somebody and connecting non-verbally has power.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so has it you kind of touched on this a little bit, but has it always been just the people and sort of the human element that you've gravitated towards, or have you tried other subjects?
Well, it was the first couple of years, it was an experiment. I went to Gastown and I was going to take the geography and try the sense of, the tourists and the movement. And I ended up talking to some of the street people and photographing them. And I said, there must be a message in this. I kind of end up wanting to do the same kind of thing wherever I am. So that was kind of, I would say, now I'm interested in movement and I'm interested in portraits. So, and buildings are nice, but I don't do so well with them.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Derry. Next up, we're going to see fantastic artwork that Jeidn has chosen to speak about. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jeidn. Could you tell us about this piece?
Yeah, so this piece is titled Oxymoron. I would say it's probably the best representation of the core themes throughout my art practice. It really just represents my ongoing journey of self-discovery while navigating the complexities of living with BPD, which can make understanding or defining myself feel especially challenging. But at the same time, it acknowledges that I still have so much to learn about who I am and the world around me, which is visually represented through the unfinished area of the painting, symbolizing the gradual process of piecing myself together. And behind me, a bright shadow is emerging, signifying hope and the possibility of a different future. However, outside of that hope and light, there's also a darker side, a recognition that growth isn't linear or always positive, and that with the highs come inevitable lows. The title Oxymoron, which I went back and forth on for a very long time, especially with my professors, encapsulates not only the visual clash, but also the mental clash I experienced from my BPD. How different facets of my personality can contradict each other. These contradictions are not only confusing for me as the one living through these feelings, but also for the people around me who sometimes struggle to understand how I can be or like polar opposite things at the same time because of my BPD. Um, so yeah, I chose this artwork because I feel like although all of my artwork, navigates these feelings and points of myself, this piece specifically speaks to the core theme of my art practice, which is discovering myself, who I was, who I am, who I'm going to be, and how that's affected by my BPD.
Thank you so much for sharing. Fascinating. Yeah, that idea of discovery and different facets and like you said, different moods and feelings. It's very interesting because as we noted earlier, you have tried various types of media. Is that sort of part of this journey, part of this exploration?
Definitely. Growing up, well, I should say, in at the end of high school when I started doing art, I was very set on only doing digital art. I told myself that's all I'm ever gonna do, and I refused to do anything else. And then I was at university doing art, and in my second year, I had no choice but to take a painting course. And I fell in love with painting. I was like, wow, this is actually really fun. Maybe I shouldn't put myself in this little box of only doing one thing. So I started taking more classes. I took drawing classes, I took photography classes, both film and digital. And yeah, I've been incorporating that into my art practice, exploring different themes and mediums. Not all of them worked out, but mostly drawing, painting, photography is what really stuck with me.
Yeah. Have you found that maybe one of these forms in particular suits what you're trying to do?
No, honestly, I think every part of the creation and the final product of my artwork speaks to who I am in that moment. I go based off of what I like and what I'm interested in. If in that moment I really feel particularly drawn to my pencils, then I'll decide that it's a piece I'm going to draw. If I feel particularly drawn to my paint, I decide it's going to be a piece I will paint. It all encapsulates this one moment of who I am.
Yeah, amazing. And you know, a lot of your artwork exposes a lot of complex things that we that you in particular have to are having to deal with. But there's something about portraiture that I think makes the work connect with the viewer, right? Because maybe they don't look like you, but seeing your face, they can maybe get a little bit of a hint into what's going on, into what you're trying to say. Um, is that something you're hoping for? Is that understanding, that connection?
Definitely. I love when people can look at my artwork and contemplate. It doesn't necessarily have to be the themes that I am exploring in the painting, just like taking that moment and sit there with the art and with the feelings that you're getting from the artwork is what I'm asking from my viewers, is to sit there and try to think to themselves, what am I feeling? What are they feeling? And how can this inform how I go about my life?
So self-portraiture is very much where you're at right now. Is that something that you're feeling you're going to continue exploring, or are you considering branching off into other subjects?
I think I might stay in this self-portraiture situation. I've actually been doing self-portraiture since I could draw. Like, I've always been fascinated with the idea of drawing myself. Hopefully that doesn't sound too egotistical. But I don't know, I've always found solace and understanding through visually representing myself. It has always helped me not only understand myself, but understand the difficult times in my life when I may have not had the support I needed or the knowledge I needed to support myself.
Yeah. No, and there's a little earlier you mentioned this idea of dark and light, and I think your work is super interesting because you bridge a number of different moods and feelings. A lot of that being expressed by the colors and the angles and sort of your compositions. So there is a real sort of exploration of balance, it seems, once you get all of the pieces together. There's a whole.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to be able to show all these pieces together because I do feel like my work is strongest when you can see more of it, because the more you look at, the more you can piece together parts of my story or my life, and hopefully that helps create better conversation and discourse surrounding the matter.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think uh, opening up and trying to have that dialogue, that discourse is really important because it's having BPD. It's something that a fair amount of people, a lot of people experience, but maybe don't have that representation or being able to have that idea of, oh, I see myself in that. So it's pretty important to try and express those types of things.
Yes, especially right now in the art world, it's hard to find any artist creating artwork surrounded around BPD. I've spent a lot of my undergraduate trying to study and find other artists um, who research similar topics to me, and there just isn't enough of a conversation out there about this. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing with us. That was fantastic. Really appreciate everything that both of you had to say. Fascinating insights into your work and your inspirations and what you're trying to do and say. And like I said, interesting differences, but I think there's still a lot of commonalities between the two of you and your artwork. Uh, Yeah, beautiful conversation, beautiful artwork. If anyone watching is watching this live, or at least watching it before May the 11th, you can come on down to the Silk Purse to meet Jeidn and Derry. We're having a Meet the Arts reception from 2 to 3:30. So it'll be a great chance to not only see their incredible artwork, but get a chance to chat with them one-on-one and maybe dig a little deeper into their work and who they are. So I think we've kind of hit our time. That was a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate how much you've both shared and appreciate your artwork and sharing it with us here at the Arts Council here at the Silk Purse. It's a pretty dynamic show. We don't do a lot of figurative work. So I'm always pleased when we get the chance to show off this kind of thing. It's pretty wonderful because as we were talking about, we can see ourselves, or we can at least see other people. You know, we can connect with people that we're seeing on a different level than, you know, a beautiful rendition of a flower or a still life or something. There's something really special that human connection when humanity is our subject, right? So, like we said, the Expressive Body will be here at the Silk Purse Arts Center in West Vancouver until June the 1st. Please come on down and see it. And if you want to know more about Jeidn and Derry, in the description of this video, there's links to their websites or social media. So please follow them there and check out what they're up to. And if you can get here in time, come on down and meet them in person on May the 11th. It'll be fantastic. So thank you again to Derry Lubell and
Let
Jeidn
me
Winkler.
add before you close
Yeah.
that I think I'd like to acknowledge what a good job you do in setting up the place, yeah, and organizing it and doing the interview. And I think that you deserve to have that recognition too. You've been giving us a lot. So,
Well, thank you.
now you can close.
No, it's been a real pleasure so far working with you two. Yeah, it's been really great, and I look forward to continuing this relationship. But yeah, so please come on down and see the Expressive Body here at the Silk Purse Arts Center, presented by the West Van Community Arts Council. And until our next artist talk, hope you all stay inspired and stay creative, and we'll see you in about a month. Take care.